A determined single father takes on the challenge of fixing a stranger's camper. She reveals herself to be a renowned billionaire, eluding the glare of the spotlight. The wind wailed outside, a creature in distress, ripping through the branches and shaking the panes of the quaint, time-worn cottage. The rain pounded relentlessly on the roof, each gust of wind rattling the delicate frame with a disquieting intensity. Within the confines of his room, the light danced in a dim and flickering manner, casting gentle shadows upon the aged wooden floor. Ethan perched on the edge of his daughter's bed, tenderly sweeping her damp hair away from her forehead. Her breathing had finally steadied, her petite form nestled beneath the blankets, blissfully oblivious to the tempest that roared beyond the walls. The sharp buzz of his phone interrupted the stillness on the nightstand. He paused, weighing his response carefully. Unfamiliar number. "Greetings?" he spoke, his voice soft and weary. A woman's voice trembled through the line. "I apologize for the late hour, but I find myself in need of assistance. The roof above me is succumbing to the elements, with water cascading into my bedroom like an unwelcome intruder. I sense that it is on the brink of collapse." Ethan blinked, rising gradually, his free hand finding solace on the window frame as a flash of lightning illuminated the sky for a fleeting moment. "Where might you be?" he inquired. She provided him with the address. His brow knitted in concentration. It lay at a distance, on the outskirts of town, almost nestled in the foothills, a locale where only a handful of souls resided. "I truly apologize," he murmured, casting a fleeting look at Mia, who shifted gently in her slumber. "Here, I have a daughter. At just 6 years old, she cannot be left unattended. Moreover, the rain is pouring down relentlessly outside. I'm afraid I can't take emergency calls at this hour." A moment of silence lingered in the air. Then her voice, now softer, approached a whisper. "Kindly? Fear grips me. I find myself in solitude." The roof groans ominously, as if on the verge of collapse at any moment. "I find myself at a loss, unsure of the next step to take." He sensed the urgency in her tone, the quiet desperation woven through her speech. Then, just behind it, the unmistakable sound of water dripping rapidly, and the wind howling through a crack echoed in the stillness. "Apologies," he reiterated. "I wish you the best in discovering someone close by." And then he ended the call. Ethan lingered for a moment, his gaze fixed on the still phone cradled in his palm. Almost instantly, the weight of guilt enveloped me. He reassured himself that it was the correct decision. He needed to be present for Mia. First and foremost, he was a father. Driving out there posed significant risks. He was entirely unfamiliar with this woman. It's possible she might be embellishing the truth. Or, even more troubling, it might be a scam. Yet her voice reverberated within the confines of his mind. "Fear grips me. I find myself in solitude." He made his way to the kitchen, intending to pour a glass of water, yet somehow found himself drawn to the window, where he stood captivated by the rain, now falling with greater intensity, slicing through the air as the wind gained strength. Lightning illuminated the sky once more, exposing the creeping floodwaters that had started to encroach upon the streets. He walked back and forth, took a seat, then rose once more. His gaze wandered repeatedly to Mia's room, drawn by the gentle illumination seeping from beneath her door. He could still perceive the rhythm of her even breaths. Yet, in that moment, his gaze fell upon her visage. It does not belong to Mia. Belonging to her, the ladies, he was utterly unaware of her name. The mere sound of her voice, delicate, reminiscent of someone stifling tears while striving to maintain composure. He envisioned her, solitary in a shadowy dwelling, the ceiling creaking overhead, rain cascading in. What if she had sustained an injury? What if the roof were to cave in? He was the sole individual who answered the call. He muttered a string of curses beneath his breath. In a matter of moments, he swiftly gathered his coat, boots, flashlight, and keys. He quietly entered Mia's room, pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, and murmured softly in her ear. He tenderly lifted her, cradling her in his arms as he traversed the yard toward the home of their neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, a retired school teacher who cherished Mia as if she were her own granddaughter. She swung the door open, clad in her nightgown, a look of surprise crossing her face. "Athon, is everything okay? Would you be able to keep an eye on Mia for a little while?" he inquired, gasping for air. "A person is in need of assistance. It's quite serious." With a decisive nod, she accepted the sleeping child from his embrace. "Certainly, proceed." He pivoted in silence and made his way back to his truck, the rain quickly soaking him to the bone. With a roar, he ignited the engine, the wipers protesting as they scraped across the glass, and surged onto the open road. He had not returned her call, nor had he informed her of his impending arrival. Yet he was. The town receded into the distance, the streetlights dwindling as he approached the fringes. Water gathered in languid pools beside the road, while trees bowed under the relentless gusts of the wind. The beams of his headlights sliced through the tempest, revealing the gravel driveway that the GPS had guided him toward. The house emerged from the shadows, its silhouette obscured by wild, untamed shrubs, while a dim light flickered from an upper window, casting an eerie glow. He silenced the engine and emerged, his heart racing. The wind forcefully closed the door behind him. In his hurried stride toward the house, her voice echoed in his mind once more, a haunting melody from the phone call, the trepidation within it, the delicate nature. He remained unaware of her identity, yet he was certain of one thing. He refused to allow her to confront this tempest by herself. The house lingered on the outskirts of town, cradled by thick trees and undulating hills, its presence almost obscured by the relentless downpour. The stillness enveloped the surroundings, excessively silent. In the absence of streetlights, the solitude is palpable, with no neighbors in sight. The silence was pierced solely by the howling wind and the heavy thud of raindrops striking the rooftop. Within the confines of the small living room, a solitary lamp flickered, its light creating elongated, swaying shadows that played across the space, while puddles gradually gathered on the hardwood floor. Arya lingered at the foot of the stairs, drenched from head to toe, a delicate raincoat adhering to her form. Her hands quivered as she grasped a plastic tarp and a roll of duct tape. She had placed a dozen phone calls, local residents, skilled tradespeople, and even a handy service line for quick fixes. Yet they either chose to decline or simply did not answer the call. When Ethan finally responded, only to utter a simple no, something within her had fractured. All avenues of connection had faded into silence. She found herself in solitude. Taking a resolute breath, she ascended the stairs to the attic, where a yawning gap in the roof allowed the tempest's wrath to pour in. The wind wailed through the gap, tugging at loose shingles and sending fragments darting across the ground. The rain cascaded down, drenching the insulation and rendering the floor a perilous, slippery expanse. Arya took a deep breath and ventured out to the precipice of the roof. She had ventured into wild territories before, but nothing quite as audacious as this. Yet, in her desperation, fear lost its edge. With deliberate grace, she crouched low, her hands deftly spreading the tarp over the fractured expanse. Every gust of wind loomed, poised to whisk her away from the roof as if she were nothing more than a mere scrap of paper. As she extended her hand toward the duct tape, her foot unexpectedly slipped on the smooth tiles, sending her off balance. She faltered, her equilibrium slipping away. A piercing scream cut through the tempest as her leg contorted in an unnatural angle, colliding with a jutting iron bracket by the chimney. A sharp pain surged through her calf. She struggled, reaching out in a desperate attempt to regain her balance, but the relentless pull of gravity had claimed its victory. She lost her footing, cascading down the incline of the roof. In that fleeting moment, powerful arms enveloped her as she plummeted, the force of the catch stealing the very breath from her lungs. Ethan arrived just in time, having barely exited his truck when he spotted her silhouette, framed by the tempestuous sky. Venturing into peril, he dashed toward the house, climbing the attic ladder with unwavering determination. With a surge of energy, he propelled them both over the precipice, and they tumbled into the wild embrace of the lush grass beneath. The descent was softened by the damp soil and dense undergrowth, yet the impact remained unsettling. They separated, emitting soft groans. Ethan was the first to rise, brushing the droplets from his eyes. "What on earth were you contemplating?" he snapped, his voice cutting through the air, laced with a hint of panic. Arya grimaced, her fingers tightening around her leg. "There was no alternative for me." Was there truly no option available to you? He uttered it again, disbelief etched across his face. You ascended to your rooftop amidst the chaos of a raging storm. I couldn't wait, she shouted back, her voice cracking. No one else came to my aid. Ethan parted his lips to respond, but hesitated. He gazed at her, with a depth of perception that transcended the surface. For the first time, her hair lay drenched and knotted, her complexion wan and marked by the falling rain. She trembled, wrapping her arms tightly around herself, and within her gaze lingered a certain rawness. Neither fear nor anger, merely a profound weariness. She was not reckless. Rather, she found herself in solitude, driven by desperation. He rose gradually, extending his hand toward her. Come, let us take you indoors. After a moment of uncertainty, she reached out and accepted it. He assisted her in rising, gently providing support as she assessed the condition of her injured leg. She flinched, teetering on the brink of another fall, yet he was there to steady her. This time, she surrendered, allowing herself to lean into him. Upon returning indoors, Ethan gently settled her onto the couch before swiftly fetching a towel from the bathroom. He knelt beside her, gently drying her shoulders, and enfolding her in another towel. Your ankle's already swelling, he remarked, examining her leg with a keen eye. I found myself on that iron bracket, she whispered. It was as if my shin had detonated. Well, it didn't, he remarked. Fortune favors you, she remarked with a wry smile. These days, I find myself seldom using the word lucky. He hesitated, his jaw clenching in silence. I regret having declined earlier. That responsibility lies with me. Arya glanced upward, taken aback by the shift in his tone. He went on, expressing his ignorance of the severity of the situation, and added, I've got my daughter to consider. Yet I ought to have arrived. She acknowledged with a gentle nod. I understand. There's someone who relies on you. Myself? This place could vanish without a soul noticing. Ethan reclined, his arms draped casually over his knees. The storm relentlessly pounded the roof overhead, yet the gaping hole was now scarcely covered by the tarp. He would still have to ascend once more and complete the task at hand. Yet, in this moment, they remained side by side, enveloped in silence, as the heaviness of the night settled around them. In the end, Arya murmured, I appreciate you for being there to catch me. He offered a faint smile. It was my pleasure, avoid turning it into a routine. In spite of it all, the ache in her leg, the tempest raging beyond the walls, the haunting echo of rejection, she let out a gentle laugh. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the world seemed to hold itself together, no longer on the brink of collapse. Within the confines of the small, softly illuminated living room, the tempest outside raged against the windows. Yet inside, a quieter, more soothing presence began to take hold. Ethan knelt beside the weathered brick fireplace, struggling with the moist kindling and matches in his hands. After several attempts, a gentle flame finally emerged, illuminating the surroundings with a warm amber light. The warmth gradually enveloped them, dispelling the lingering chill that clung to their drenched garments and skin. Arya nestled into the embrace of an oversized armchair, a cozy blanket draped around her shoulders. Her leg rested upon a cushion, while damp strands of hair clung to her cheeks. She cradled a steaming mug of tea, a concoction crafted by Ethan, more warm water than anything else. Yet the simple gesture was sufficient to calm the tremors in her hands. Ethan cast a sidelong glance while tending to the flickering flames. You're fortunate, he remarked, his tone softened, taking on a more contemplative quality. It could have been more challenging out there. I don't feel lucky, Arya murmured. But thank you for being here. He remained silent for a moment, merely nodding as he settled into the chair opposite her. His posture was taut, reminiscent of someone unaccustomed to remaining still for any length of time. The silence lingered between them, neither awkward nor uneasy, simply unvoiced. Your daughter, Arya said softly. Is it Mia then? Ethan's gaze became tender. Indeed, she is 6 years old, a remarkably bright child, likely more intelligent than I am. She's fortunate to have you. He offered a faint smile, one that never fully illuminated his gaze. I make an effort. Her mother passed away during childbirth. Arya's face transformed in an instant, her expression shifting into a serene understanding. Regret washed over him as he spoke, the words tumbling out in a rush. It was unexpected, a cruel twist of fate. Complications had arisen during labor. She had been vibrant and healthy until that very night. He halted, the weight of his emotions choking him as he swallowed hard. In those days, we resided in the city. I held a respectable position as a civil engineer, working on significant projects, even towering high-rises. However, after her passing, I found it impossible to maintain my composure, especially with a newborn in my care. So, I made the difficult decision to leave it all behind, returning here to take on whatever work I could find: plumbing, roofing, car repairs, anything that allowed me to remain close to home. Arya observed him intently, her grip on the mug growing firmer. That is, in abundance. I had no choice, he confessed. I didn't want a nanny to raise her. I wanted her to see my face the moment she opened her eyes. He averted his gaze, his jaw tightening as he fixed his eyes on the flickering flames. Once, my dreams were many, but now they have distilled into a singular hope that accompanies me each night. That she finds rest until dawn, that she is protected, and that I have managed to do something right for her in the hours that have passed. For an extended pause, Arya remained silent. She gazed at him, this weathered figure who had saved her from her rooftop, now seated before her, weary yet unwavering. The manner in which he spoke, direct, unrefined, and unguarded, touched her in ways she hadn't anticipated. She spoke softly. I never knew my father in that manner. Ethan gazed upward, a figure of power and success, his name resonating with all. Yet, in my childhood musings, I often pondered whether he even recognized mine. He bestowed upon me the name Arya, inspired by an opera that held his affection, yet he never truly regarded me as an individual, merely a testament to his enduring legacy. What a remarkable way to come of age, Ethan remarked, his tone now gentler. I fled from everything: the wealth, the relentless pressure, the individuals who viewed me merely as a means to their own ends. I acquired this abode under another name, devoid of assistants or drivers, simply tranquility. I longed for a taste of normalcy, even if it required enduring the rain beneath a fractured roof. Ethan inclined his body, his elbows finding a perch upon his knees. You appear quite different from the affluent individuals I've encountered. I don't want to be, she replied, her voice laced with a quiet defiance. You're the first person tonight who's looked at me without the weight of questions about what I do, who I am, or how much I make. He let out a dry chuckle. You didn't quite afford me the opportunity. Arya offered a shy smile. Indeed, that holds true. He gazed at her for a fleeting moment more. Arya Lane, he echoed. It seems we find ourselves in a place quite different from what we once envisioned for our lives. No, she said, her voice softening with a tender touch. Yet, perhaps that isn't as unfavorable as it seems. The wind outside began to soften slightly, the relentless drumming of rain transforming into a more measured cadence. Ethan rose to his feet, extending his limbs as his gaze drifted toward the attic. I must return to reinforce that tarp more effectively. It will endure until dawn, yet I wouldn't place my faith in it beyond that point. Arya nodded, wrapping the blanket more snugly around herself. Exercise caution. He paused at the threshold, casting a lingering glance over his shoulder. You are not as isolated as you believe, Arya. Her gaze lingered on him as he made his exit. The fire crackled behind her, a small yet persistent warmth enveloping her as she leaned back in the chair. Her ankles throbbed with discomfort, yet her heart felt inexplicably lighter. After an extended period, someone had arrived not due to her reputation, but rather in defiance of it. The storm lingered, gradually withdrawing from its tumultuous display. Within the warm embrace of the fire's glow, Arya sat in quietude, her shivers now a distant memory. She gazed at the flickering flames, and within her, a subtle thought began to blossom. Perhaps, at long last, she had truly been noticed. The rain had ceased 2 days prior, yet the atmosphere lingered with the scent of moist soil and pine needles. Arya's house, though bearing the marks of time, radiated a newfound vibrancy that it hadn't possessed in years. A fresh warmth enveloped its rooms, stemming not only from the sturdy roof and the firewood Ethan had assisted her in stacking, but predominantly from the souls who now traversed its thresholds. As the late morning sun cast its warm glow, Ethan arrived in his truck, with Mia beside him, her gaze fixed intently on the world outside the window. Arya had reached out the previous evening, inquiring if he could inspect the malfunctioning heating system and the unstable railing on the porch. She attempted to maintain a casual demeanor, yet a thread of hope lingered in her voice, one that he had not overlooked. As he emerged from the truck, Mia nearly sprang out ahead of him. "Greetings, Miss Arya," Mia exclaimed, dashing up the steps where Arya stood, her gentle smile accompanied by a plate of warm banana muffins. "Well, hello, sunshine," Arya said, kneeling down to present Mia with a muffin. As the warm aroma wafted through the air, Mia's eyes sparkled with delight. "You're like a fairy godmother, a whimsical fairy who bakes," Ethan chuckled as he closed the truck door. "She has been raving about those muffins ever since our last encounter." Arya let out a soft, melodic laugh. "It seems I must ensure that a new batch is always ready for your visits." The morning slipped away in a blur. Ethan toiled away on the heating system, while Mia lent her assistance to Arya in the kitchen. Arya's laughter resonated throughout the house repeatedly, and with each peal, Ethan momentarily halted his tasks, attuned to the sound. Eventually, he discovered the two of them gathered around the piano. Arya played gently, her fingers gliding across the keys with a fluid grace. Mia reclined against her, observing with a sense of wonder. The tune was strange, yet its allure was unmistakable. "Which song is that?" Ethan inquired as he stepped into the room. "It's something my mother used to play," Arya remarked. "It has been quite some time since I last played it, yet I believe Mia would enjoy it." "I love it," Mia chimed in, her smile stretching from ear to ear. "She is a mystical piano enchantress." As Ethan leaned against the doorframe, a rare tenderness glimmering in his gaze. It had been months, perhaps even longer, since he had witnessed Mia in such a state of relaxation. As the sun sank beneath the horizon that evening, Arya extended an invitation for them to join her for dinner. It was a humble feast: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans. But there was an undeniable magic in gathering around her table that transformed it into something greater, something akin to family. Mia nestled between them, animatedly discussing school, her beloved books, and a whimsical dream where she and Arya soared on a colossal muffin through the fluffy clouds. Arya's laughter bubbled forth, bringing tears to her eyes, while Ethan felt a smile spreading across his face, a rare occurrence in recent weeks. "You have a way with her," he remarked softly as they stood together, washing the dishes in the aftermath. Arya shrugged, her voice barely above a whisper. "She simplifies everything. She possesses a beauty that transcends the physical," Ethan acknowledged with a nod. "That trait is inherited from her mother." Arya paused, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face, before she inquired, "If you were to lose her as well, would you still remain yourself?" He pivoted abruptly, the soapy plate in his grasp teetering precariously. "What is this?" "At times, it seems we entwine our very essence with those we hold dear. One can't help but ponder our identities in their absence." Ethan's countenance grew somber. "That's quite a bold statement to make." "I didn't mean to imply that she's merely someone I love. She is the very essence of my existence, the driving force that compels me to rise each morning. Do you really believe I merely placed a band-aid over the grief and carried on? I did not. I transformed into another version of myself out of necessity. Mia is the sole reason I remain upright." Arya's expression dimmed. "I apologize, Ethan. I did not intend to imply." "Don't," he interrupted, his hands drying with a vigorous intensity. "Do not portray her as a hindrance or a weight to bear. She is not. She embodies it all." He turned, calling out to Mia, "Get your coat." The little girl glanced up from the puzzle she was engrossed in, her eyes reflecting a mix of confusion, yet her spirit remained unyielded to the call of play. "We're going," Ethan declared, already slipping his jacket on. Arya remained motionless, a tumult of guilt and regret swirling in her throat. "Ethan, hold on a moment if you would." Yet, he remained silent. He swung the door wide, allowing the crisp evening breeze to sweep in as he tenderly ushered Mia into the night. The door closed with a resounding thud, reverberating through the hushed stillness of the house. Arya found herself solitary in the kitchen, her hands lingering in moisture, the dishes left unattended. The warmth that once enveloped her had dissipated, leaving behind an unexpected emptiness. Her intention had been to delve into a profound inquiry regarding identity and loss, yet what she had inadvertently done was graze a wound that remained too tender to endure. Outside, the wind stirred once more, causing the leaves on the porch to rustle softly, while inside Arya settled into the stillness, her gaze fixed on the puzzle Mia had left incomplete, a solitary piece lying on the table, waiting to find its place. The air carried a chill that had been absent for days. Low, gray clouds loomed over the town, reflecting the heavy burden Ethan bore in his heart. Returning had not been part of his intentions. Following the fraught dinner and the biting words that had been flung, he reassured himself that it was finished. As he wandered through his workshop, memories of his toolbox lingered in his mind, still resting in Arya's utility room. He eased his car into her driveway, caught in a moment of hesitation, torn between the impulse to knock and the urge to simply gather his belongings and depart. The house appeared still, devoid of vitality. He approached the porch and tested the door handle. The door stood ajar, unlatched and inviting. Within the confines of the house, warmth enveloped the air, yet an unsettling emptiness lingered. The flames had extinguished, leaving only the remnants of warmth in the air. He made his way to the back, searching for his tools, yet his gaze was drawn to an intriguing sight in the dining room. A folder carelessly left open on the table. Intrigued, he moved in closer. A photograph rested atop. Arya sat poised in a modern boardroom encircled by sharply dressed professionals. Her name graced the space below it. Arya Lane, the visionary leader at the helm of Lane Capital Holdings. Adjacent to the photograph lay property maps, deed documents, and corporate development blueprints. Ethan's gaze fell upon a familiar name. The land to the west of town had just been acquired by her company. The puzzle pieces clicked together, swiftly and precisely. She was more than a woman in search of tranquility. She embodied the essence of Arya Lane. The echo of footsteps shattered his reverie. Arya stood motionless in the doorway, her breath caught in her throat at the sight of him. "I forgot my tools," he said, his voice as cold as ice. She advanced with careful deliberation. "I intended to share that with you." "When?" he retorted. "Once I repaired your roof? After my daughter placed her trust in you? Ethan, it's not as you perceive it. Is it a test then? Join us in experiencing the struggles of the working class and observe their reactions." "I'm merely a single father, aren't I? Simple target." "No," she replied swiftly, her eyes brimming with tears. "I sought to discover whether anyone could truly care for me, stripped of names and devoid of wealth. You deceived me." "I was escaping," she said, her voice trembling. "That existence, those individuals, they never truly perceived my presence." He gazed at her, pain carved profoundly into his features. "Indeed, I caught sight of you and welcomed you in. I allowed my daughter to embrace you, and now I find myself questioning your very essence." He seized his toolbox and pivoted toward the door. "Please," she whispered. "My intentions were never to cause pain to anyone." He hesitated, casting a glance over his shoulder. "You didn't merely deceive me. You transformed something genuine into an illusion." And just like that, he vanished. Arya remained frozen, the reverberation of the door's abrupt closure hanging in the air, stretching time in its wake. The silence enveloping the house was almost unbearable. She approached the couch and settled into its embrace, her hands quivering slightly. The papers remained exposed, revealing the truth she had desperately sought to conceal. Her gaze wandered to the coffee table, where one of Mia's puzzle pieces remained, untouched. She lifted it, tracing her thumb over its jagged contours. Despite the numerous deals she had successfully closed and the impressive buildings that bore her name, this moment loomed as her most significant failure, signaling the onset of the storm she had always dreaded. The wind surged once more that afternoon, swirling through the trees with an escalating intensity. A tempest was gathering on the horizon. The sky deepened into a somber hue as Ethan lingered on his porch, observing the clouds gather, his heart constricted with all that he had been striving to suppress. Fury, remorse, and the gradual weight of monetary strain. Within the confines of the room, Mia nestled on the couch, her knees drawn tightly to her chest, gazing intently at the darkened television screen. Since departing from Arya's house, her lips had remained uncurled, and her words had been few. Ethan sank to one knee beside her. "Are you all right, my dear?" Initially, she remained silent, but then inquired, "Will we ever have the chance to see her again?" Ethan let out a soft sigh, gently tucking her hair behind her ear. "I'm not quite sure, darling." Yet, Mia murmured, she had committed no wrongdoing. "You raised your voice at her." "I know," he murmured softly. "The situation is intricate." He offered a weary smile, as if to say that was the go-to response whenever an explanation felt too burdensome. "Why not take a moment to sketch something? I shall prepare dinner shortly." He drifted into the kitchen, only partially attuned to the storm warning crackling from the radio. Gusts of wind exceeding 70 miles per hour may lead to potential blackouts. He surveyed the pantry. Preserved goods, dried noodles, devoid of freshness. The act of shopping would need to be postponed. 15 minutes later, he made his way back to the living room. Mia had vanished. He shouted, searched each room, the bathroom, the bedroom, the hallway, yet found nothing. Then he noticed the back door slightly open. The yellow raincoat had vanished. A wave of panic crashed within him. "Mia. Mia." He burst through the door, calling out her name, his voice swept away by the breeze. As he dashed past, neighbors emerged onto their porches, curious gazes following his swift movement. "Have you come across Mia?" A 6-year-old with brown hair, adorned in pink boots. "She has departed." She remained unseen by all. In mere moments, individuals dispersed into the streets, flashlights aglow in their grasp. Calls were initiated, and search parties assembled. Ethan sprinted through narrow alleyways, across schoolyards, and along the fringes of the woods. Every second dragged on interminably. The rain descended in frigid torrents, while the wind roared with increasing ferocity. Thoughts surged through his mind like a tempest. What would happen if she tumbled into the creek? What if she found herself in solitude, shivering, gripped by fear, or facing something even more dire? His phone vibrated with a sudden urgency. A number shrouded in mystery. He answered the call. "Greetings? It's Aria, Ethan." He stood motionless. "I've come to learn that she's gone missing. I believe I have an inkling of her possible whereabouts." "What is this? Where might that be?" She once remarked that the ancient church by the orchard resembled a castle. "I am on my way there at this moment. I shall meet you." He leapt into his truck and sped out of the driveway. The road glistened with moisture. Branches scattered across the way, and the world around was shrouded in near darkness. 10 minutes stretched into an eternity. The church emerged in the distance, rising ominously like a specter amidst the tempest. He hit the brakes with force, dashed to the doors, and pushed until they groaned open. Within, the wind whispered through the fractured, tarnished glass. The pews lay shrouded in a fine layer of dust. At that moment, he became aware of it. A gentle weep. He pivoted. Aria nestled on the floor, enveloping Mia securely within the warmth of her coat. The girl held on tightly, drenched yet secure. Ethan sank to his knees. "Mia." She gazed upward, tears cascading down her cheeks. "Father." He enveloped her in his embrace, holding her tightly against him, pressing a gentle kiss into her hair. "I have you covered. I have you covered." Apologies escaped her lips, mingled with tears. "I simply wished to catch a glimpse of Aria. I never intended to frighten you." "You're okay," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Ultimately, that's what holds significance." He cast his gaze upon Aria. Her hair clung to her skin, drenched, her complexion ashen, yet she had cradled Mia throughout it all. "You found her," he said. She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I was mistaken," he admitted. "Concerning you." "Concerning all matters?" In the dim glow they locked eyes, the tempest howling fiercely outside the crumbling walls. "You're not the person I imagined," he murmured. "You are so much more." In that ancient church, a subtle yet profound change unfolded between them, silently and entirely. A fractured bond of trust slowly mending. The morning following the tempest unfolded, gentle and radiant, as though the heavens were seeking forgiveness. The streets lay strewn with shattered branches and autumn's discarded leaves. Yet the darkest hour had receded. Amidst the stillness that emerged after the tumult, a fresh connection began to blossom between Ethan and Aria. Something delicate yet authentic. As the afternoon waned, Ethan picked up the phone to call her. "Are you hungry?" he inquired, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "Mia persistently inquires about the arrival of her fairy godmother for dinner." Aria beamed as she spoke into the phone. I find myself in the mood for a meal." Upon her arrival at Ethan's abode, a quaint, weathered cottage adorned with creaky steps and a slanted mailbox, she was greeted by the enticing aroma of baked chicken and fragrant herbs drifting through the ajar windows. The interior exuded warmth, with an eclectic array of cherished furniture, walls adorned with whimsical sketches and treasured photographs from days gone by. A modest fireplace flickered softly in the corner. Mia dashed toward her with a joyful squeal, enveloping her in a warm embrace. The little girl declared proudly, showcasing index cards adorned with her scrawled names and a sprinkle of glitter. The evening meal was unpretentious: chicken, creamy mashed potatoes, vibrant green beans, and a loaf of bread that Ethan had miraculously avoided scorching. They nestled together, their laughter weaving through the stillness that had previously enveloped this home. Subsequently, the trio made their way to the living room, where a jigsaw puzzle lay in anticipation on the coffee table. They nestled on the floor, legs crossed, meticulously assembling a tableau of a lighthouse amidst a tempestuous sea. Mia's laughter bubbled up each time Ethan stumbled, while Aria deftly aided him in feigning it was all part of the plan. For a time, the past faded away, along with worries of money and guilt, leaving only the comforting embrace of shared moments where one felt truly seen and accepted. Aria experienced a profound sensation as Mia leaned against her, her eyelids heavy with slumber, resting her head against Aria's side as though it were its rightful place. As Mia succumbed to slumber on the couch, Ethan gently draped a blanket over her before returning to Aria, who lingered silently by the fireplace, her arms folded across her chest. "Your home," she said softly, "is nothing like mine, yet it somehow feels more authentic than any place I've ever known." He rested against the wall, his arms crossed in contemplation. "Though it may be modest, with a roof that drips and heat that falters, it holds a special place in our hearts. It's ours." She gazed at him, probing the depths of his expression. "Ethan, I yearn to embark on a journey, something grander than myself." He arched an eyebrow. "For some time now," she mused, "it has occupied my thoughts. I aspire to establish a foundation dedicated to constructing homes for those in need. Single mothers, children in the system, veterans. Not merely structures, but genuine homes. Safe havens, warm sanctuaries." His eyes grew tender. "I want to begin right here," she declared, her eyes sparkling with determination. "In this town, and I want you to be a part of it." He exhaled slowly, the weight of her words settling around them. "Aria, that is..." With a graceful motion, she delved into her bag and retrieved a folder, extending it toward him. "It's a proposal," she stated. "Preliminary drafts in place. The budget is secured. All I require is a leader for the design, someone who truly understands the essence of home." Ethan opened it, flipping through the pages, absorbing the layout, the mission statement, the architectural notes that bore his name already penciled into the project plan. His hands quivered ever so slightly. He began, then hesitated. "I used to dream about this, back when I was still constructing luxury condos for those who didn't even care about their appearance. I envisioned a day when I would create something of significance. Yet, as fate would have it, life intervened." Aria moved in closer. "Indeed, fate has led you back to this moment." He gazed at her, a feeling awakening in his heart that he had long been too afraid to acknowledge. "What is it about me?" She remarked that you never ceased your efforts, even during those times when it was merely you and Mia. You persevered, cultivating love, security, and a life. An achievement that surpasses what many attain. His voice carried a rugged edge. "You are offering me an opportunity for redemption. I am bestowing one upon each of us." He shut the folder, cradling it against his chest. "All right," he murmured, his voice heavy with intent. "Let's create something genuine." They lingered in quietude for a heartbeat, the gravity of the instant enveloping them. With measured grace, Aria advanced, each step purposeful and intentional. Ethan locked eyes with her, and in that moment he leaned in and kissed her without a second thought. It unfolded with a sense of calm and purpose. It was unwavering, anchoring. Her hands glided to his chest, while his found their way to her waist, and the world around them faded into a serene hush. The only sound that filled the room was the gentle cadence of Mia's breath as she lay on the couch. As they separated, silence enveloped them, each lost in their thoughts for a fleeting moment. Yet, there was no necessity for them to do so. In that kiss, a message had been conveyed with greater clarity than any words exchanged prior. We are whole once more. We are embarking on a new journey side by side. The sky unfurled in gentle shades of blue and gold, a morning that whispered of sacred promises. Where once lay barren land, now stood vibrant new homes adorned with white trims and flower-laden porches. Flags fluttered in the air, children's laughter echoed, and banners proclaiming, "Home of Hearts," swayed softly in the gentle spring breeze. Ethan straightened his tie beneath the white canopy, the focal point of the gathering. 1 year prior, he stood at Arya's threshold, a toolbox in hand, and a heart weighed down by sorrow. Today, he stood at the forefront of a housing project that had provided homes to dozens of families, with many more on the horizon. His gaze swept over the throng until it landed on Mia. She donned a delicate pale blue dress, her braids adorned with petite white flowers. She appeared luminous, enveloped in tranquility. A year prior, the spark in her eyes had faded. Once again, it had returned, shining with an intensity unmatched. Arya stood by the media tent, a vision of grace and poise. In her flowing white dress, she exuded a quiet strength that effortlessly attracted those around her. She had offered her name, her resources, and her heart to this mission, yet never sought acknowledgement. Ethan made his way toward her just as she pivoted in his direction. "Everything's perfect," she said, a smile gracing her lips. "Almost," he replied, a smile playing on his lips, suggesting an unspoken depth beneath the surface. Her eyebrow arched in curiosity. "Nearly? You'll witness." The ceremony commenced shortly thereafter. The community leaders expressed their gratitude to the donors and volunteers before extending an invitation to Arya to share her thoughts. She approached the podium, her voice resonating with clarity, yet imbued with a soft warmth. "Most of my life has unfolded within the confines of boardrooms," she began, enveloped by titles and numbers. "I believe that was the very essence of success." She hesitated, her gaze shifting to Ethan and Mia. "I found myself adrift. It was on a tempestuous night that a stranger responded to my plea for assistance, not out of familiarity with my identity, but simply because I was in need of companionship. A solitary father, burdened with his own challenges, still chose to come. He didn't merely repair my roof, he played a pivotal role in my reconstruction." The audience stood in rapt silence, captivated by her eloquence. "Today, that man stands at the helm of this project, and the little girl who once referred to me as her fairy godmother has become family." She gestured toward the rows of homes. "True success is defined not by power, but by purpose, not by wealth, but by love." With the audience erupting in applause, Ethan approached her, gently taking her hand. At that moment she inquired, perceiving the change in his demeanor. He inclined his head slightly and retrieved a small box from the depths of his pocket. He stood tall, gazing into her eyes, his hands enveloping hers with a gentle grip. "This year transformed everything, Mia, myself, and you. You carved out a sanctuary for us, transforming into our refuge." He lifted the lid of the box. Within lay a modest silver band, cradling a delicate pale gem. "It lacks elegance," he remarked. "Mia discovered the stone on the night we first encountered you. She remarked that it brought you to mind, serene, radiant, and one of a kind. I chose to have it crafted in silver, for it transcends mere cost. It embodies significance." His voice wavered ever so slightly. "Would you do me the honor of becoming my spouse?" With tears welling in her eyes, Arya gave a solemn nod. "Indeed." Cheers resounded in the air around them. Mia dashed forward, enveloping them both in a warm embrace. "I told you she'd be our mommy," she whispered with a sense of pride. As the afternoon waned and the echoes of celebration transformed into gentle conversations and farewells, the trio strolled hand in hand toward the inaugural home completed in the new development. A pristine white ribbon spanned the doorway. They joined forces and pulled together. The ribbon danced gracefully through the air before settling gently onto the ground. Arya faced them, her lips curving into a soft smile. "Are you prepared?" Ethan inclined his head in agreement. "We have been prepared." Mia clasped their hands tightly, a radiant smile lighting up her face. Hand in hand they crossed the threshold, not merely into a house, but into the very essence of the life they had crafted. A life brimming with warmth, laughter, and second chances, where love unfolds not through grand declarations, but through the simple, everyday gestures of being present. It transcended mere happiness. It marked the dawn of a true homecoming. We appreciate your presence as we embark on this touching journey filled with love, healing, and the promise of second chances. Ethan, Aria, and little Mia serve as a poignant reminder that the tempests we face in life are not always meant to shatter us. They arrive to carve a route toward something greater, toward kinship, toward aspiration, toward belonging. If this tale resonated with you, please consider liking, sharing, and sharing your thoughts on your favorite moment in the comments. Above all, be sure to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more impactful narratives that nurture your spirit and illuminate the enduring beauty that remains in our world. Until we meet again, hold steadfast to your faith in love, kindness, and the enchanting possibilities that fresh starts bring.